Still, people are walking in, that's okay. We welcome them all. When you have a public program which is free, a lot of people sign up, but not always everybody showed up. So I suspect that we had over 200 and roughly 220 people who sign up, but I think we now probably have 150 here in this room. I'm sure that they will come in slowly. We'll just let them sit at the back. Anyway, I'm Ronnie Chan. I'm the honorary chair of Hang Lung, and I happen to also be the chair of the Asia Society Hong Kong Center and chair emeritus of the Global Asia Society. We're delighted to have a program here today. Let me just give you a little history and background, why we are here. 20-some years ago, Professor Shing Tong Yao, who's an old friend, came to me. He and I have first, 30-some years ago, we started the Hang Lung. No, we started a thing called the Morningside Medal of Mathematics for Chinese anywhere in the world. These are the really mathematicians who have achieved world significance in their research. And then 20-some years ago, he came to me and said, Ronnie, I have another idea. I want to do a mathematics award for high school students. Now that appealed to me because Morningside Medal of Mathematics, Morningside being my family company, is for mathematicians of Chinese descent anywhere in the world. But Hang Lung Mathematics Award is for Hong Kong, in particular for Hong Kong students. I know nothing about mathematics. I know nothing about mathematics except I know that 1 + 1 = 2. And although Harry Shum will say, no, that's no longer the right answer. Whatever it is, you tell me, Harry. So I just basically listened to Shing Tong and follow his leadership, and we started the Hang Lung Mathematics Award for high school students. Just a little bit about my co-chair, my co-founder. He doesn't believe in all these mathematics awards that ask questions with a definitive answer. He just doesn't like it. I have no basement to judge whether that is good or bad, math Olympiad and that kind of stuff. He never liked it. Who am I to contradict him? He's a Fields medalist. I'm nothing. So I just listened to him and followed his leadership, and we started Hang Lung Mathematics Award for research among high school students in the field of mathematics. We all know mathematics being the so-called mother of all sciences. I thought that this is a wonderful thing for Hong Kong. We do it every other year, and we encourage local schools to send students, high school students, anywhere from Form 1 to Form 6, form teams of anywhere from 1 to 5 members, led by a teacher, and they do a research report that has to be original, shall I say, more or less like when you try to get a PhD. And then we have a committee, a screening committee, comprising local university professors from all 5-6 universities right here, to choose the best paper for that year. And then out of that, we choose the final 15 teams or so each time, and the 15 teams come together physically at the Hang Lung office to be grilled by world-class mathematicians, including some Fields medalists, Wolf Prize winners, and some local and some international big-time mathematicians. And let me assure you, these students are shaking in their boots when they walk in. It's good. We all go through those kind of stages in life, and it's okay for us to be scared of things. And it's a very good training. And out of the 15 teams or so, we usually pick one winner, a gold medal winner, 1 or 2 silver, 1 or 2 bronze, and then some honorary mentions. So usually about 6-7 teams every year receive some kind of award. And I'm happy to say that many of those students have gone on to many very good things. A lot of them have gone on to the likes of MIT, Cambridge, Stanford, wherever, and went on for higher education. But the ones that really I appreciate are the ones who go back to become high school teachers. We have quite a number of them who, some won, some never did, but they went back to local high schools and teach. And as a result, they encourage their students to participate in the Hang Lung Math Award. And I'm happy to say that we have some former winners as students and later as teachers, leading teams of students to participate. And the award, by the way, sorry, I'm a business guy, so I have to talk about money. I won't tell you how much it is, but anyway, the students, of course, receive a cash award in the form of tuition for the university. We pay for it. And then the teacher also gets something. And the high school also receives something so that the principals will encourage their teachers to participate in our program. I'm happy to say, I think Hong Kong, how many high schools there are? 500 some? 200 teams have participated. 2,600 plus students have joined our contest. And they have submitted 460 research papers over the last 20 years. I'm very happy that my colleagues from Hang Lung, many of them are represented here, our CEO, Weber Low, our CFO, Kenneth Chu, and our new chair who kicked me out. I'm now honorary chairman. I hope I'm honorary. But anyway, so I'm delighted that they can be here to continue to support this very, very worthy program. I know that the Hong Kong government, with whom I have periodic dialogue, they are also very, very happy that we have put this program together. And we also have some students. How many of you have participated in our competition before who are here? I think we probably have half a dozen of you, right? Can you stand to be recognized, those who have participated in our test and our competition? Only one, two? Okay, over here, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right, very good. Thank you. We also have members of our steering committee and scientific committee here. Tim Leung, are you here? Wai Ping Lo, please rise to be recognized. All those who have served. Monsieur Leung, thank you. And I'm happy to say that we, for the first, 15 years or so, 16 years or so, we worked with Chinese University. We have had a fantastic relationship with them. And then in the last few years, we are partnering with the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology, of which Shum, our speaker today, is now the chairman of the council. I'm very impressed by the quality and the heart of the teachers, high school teachers as well as professors in mathematics who have really dedicated their life to educating young people. So I'm very happy to have this program here today. Well, this is being the 20th year, we thought that we should have a little broadened event. By the way, we don't just run the contest every 2 years. Throughout the year, we have a lot of programs where we mentor young mathematicians. So those who have participated in the past, especially those who have won, many of them have come back and become mentors together with their professor, their teacher, in order to help the younger students to improve in their understanding of mathematics. So this is a year-long thing. It is not something Hang Lung does only once every 2 years. And this being the 20th year, we thought that we should enlarge our coverage and do some public programs. The first one we had was held here a few months ago on science. What is good science? And we invited a biological scientist, Nancy Yip, the president of Hong Kong UST, together with a physical scientist, Professor Zhang Xiang from the Hong Kong University, the president of Hong Kong U, to be the speaker here. And that session was moderated by another gentleman who more or less is a professor, who have degrees in both biological sciences, a PhD, a doctorate in that, as well as in the physical sciences, and that happened to be my brother, Dr. Gerald Chan. After the event, Asia Society, which allow us to use this beautiful place represented by our president, Alice Mong here, will have a private dinner where we invite people, but they have to pay, for a private event to discuss mathematics and, in this case, AI in a more intimate setting. So for those of you who are joining afterwards, we will go upstairs to have a small dinner. Today, we're very, very happy that we have three actually truly experts on AI with us. Antoine Blondeau came to see me because how long did you live in Hong Kong, Antoine? 20 years. Ladies and gentlemen, he is one of the top experts in AI, as an AI investor in particular. Why is he so good? Because he has 20 years living in Hong Kong. Now he lives in Dubai, not bad. I was once upon a time an advisor to the Sheikh Mohammed of Dubai, so I know that emirate very well. So Antoine, welcome back. I still think that one of these days you should move back to Hong Kong. If you need a house, I'm sure that my CEO will be able to help you. But even if not, Hong Kong is really a much better place, not as hot as Dubai. I love Dubai, by the way. I just came back a few months ago. But I still think that Hong Kong is better food. Anyway, so we're delighted to have Antoine Blondeau here with us. With him on the stage today is my old friend, Dr. Harry Shum. He is Executive Vice President of Microsoft for 20-some years. He is only one of two executives of Chinese descent who have achieved to become Executive Vice President of Microsoft, and he was in charge of the AI lab there. So of anybody, I think he is qualified to be a speaker here today. I'm so happy that he now not only run a research center in Shenzhen, but he also has agreed to take on the job as the chairman of the Council of Hong Kong UST, a job that once upon a time I turned down. You should thank me for it because I did not destroy that university by assuming that position so that we can hand it on to much more qualified people such as Professor Harry Shum. Moderating the session is one of our own from Hong Kong, Chinese University, Professor Helen Meng, also a leader in the AI field. Don't think Hong Kong don't have experts. We have a lot of experts. So today, we have a Frenchman from Hong Kong, we have a mainland friend from Hong Kong, and we have a local Helen Meng from right here in Hong Kong. So ladies and gentlemen, with that, let me invite the three of them to come on the stage and have Helen moderate.
Testing. Okay, so thank you very much, Ronnie, for the kind introduction. Good afternoon, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, friends, students. It is really a great pleasure for me to have this opportunity to serve as your moderator today. And as you can see, we're going to explore the good, bad, and the beautiful in artificial intelligence. So looking at the multifaceted impacts of AI. And as Ronnie mentioned, I'm Helen Meng. I come from the Chinese University of Hong Kong. My research interest is in human-computer interaction, and in particular, in machine, speech, and language intelligence. So I'm really passionate about conducting research in multilingual speech and language technologies, and especially Cantonese, Putonghua, and English. So Hong Kong is a wonderful place for AI research. Now, I'm very honored to be joined by two esteemed panelists. We have Dr. Antoine Blondeau, and as Ronnie mentioned, Antoine is a pioneer. He's a technology entrepreneur and investor, known for his significant contributions to AI development and his leadership in steering major investments in transformative AI companies globally. And I also have Professor Harry Shum, or Chairman Shum, who is a world-renowned computer scientist, foreign member of the US National Academy of Engineering, and University Council Chairman of the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology, who spearheaded Microsoft's AI strategy and also groundbreaking AI products, such as the multilingual web search Bing and chatbot Xiaobing. So let's warm up a bit, and I would like to invite our panelists to share with us your journey in AI, perhaps your personal interests, your vision, maybe some notable experiences, and key projects. So shall we start with Antoine, please?
Thank you, Helen. Thank you for the kind introduction. Ronnie, thank you for inviting me here. It's just lovely to be here, to be back in Hong Kong. I love the city. I've always loved the city. I got here the first time, it was in '89, and I thought one day I'll live here, and I did it for 20 years, and those were the best decades of my life. So you asked about the journey. So I started to code when I was 11. And I actually, my first program was about cooking. My wife will tell you that I don't know my way around the kitchen. I don't even know where the kitchen is in the house. But precisely because of this, I thought, okay, I'm going to code something about cooking so that actually I get to know something about the kitchen eventually. I'll be useful. And I think that's a promise of AI, what it can do that we cannot do, how it can augment ourselves. And that's the beginning of the journey. The journey is very long. I'm an investor now, but before being an investor, I was an entrepreneur 3 times. I built 3 companies. You said you're very interested in speech. I built 2 companies, one of which back in '98, which we took public. We invented one of 2 companies that invented predictive text entry. As you begin to type a word, what is predicted, the next word is predicted. So really the ancestors of the LLMs, the technology is very different. It's very obsolete by now standards, but it was called predictive grammar, and lo and behold, it worked, And so we did that, and then I was based in Hong Kong at the time. I moved to the Valley for a few years and came back here. But in the Valley, I was the CEO of the companies that built what became Siri, again, language related. And Siri was all about what is now called knowledge graphs. Ontologies, essentially, and the way that we do these things now is very different. But Siri was just a glimpse at a future that may be possible. And none of us ever thought that we would see what's happening today. And I'll come back to that, because what's happening today is the giant accident. There was no grand plan to build ChatGPT. I'm an investor in OpenAI, so I know 1 or 2 things about it. No grand plan. And then I built another company called Sentient in the Bay Area, where the idea was how you scale compute to scale the semantic scope of algorithmic models, right? Sort of way before the cloud was a meaningful proposition, and way before NVIDIA. Did that for about 20 years, and 5 years ago decided that my time as an operator was up and moved to the investment world. And I sort of have the best of both worlds. I am very lucky to see a lot of different and very interesting projects and people, mostly, and most importantly. But I get to get my hands dirty when I need to or want to, which is quite fun. So it's kind of best of both worlds. Maybe the last point. So I said it's an accident. What we're witnessing here for the past couple of years is a statistical accident born out of Silicon Valley, where you probably have the highest concentration of people who tinker, right? But there's an important thing when it comes to accidents. First of all, they're not planned. And because they're not planned, nobody is ready for it. And what you see and what you hear in a discourse the last couple of years is effectively nobody is being ready for it. Okay, Google was not ready for it. Remember, January 23, they announced what is now Gemini, was called Bard, and there was a defect in the demo, and they lost 5% or 10% of their market cap in one day. Big headlines. Why? Because they were not ready, right? And so big tech was not ready, the VC industry was not ready, governments were not ready, corporates were not ready, schools not ready, nobody's not ready. So that the point is, everybody is late to the party, and because everybody's late to the party, nobody's late, right? So, And that's really important, right? It's the opportunity to seize. There's no laggards yet. Okay, the game has not been won, and it was just at the beginning of this grand story called AI.
Thank you, Antoine. I do remember the time when Siri came out, and many people's jaws dropped, especially in our area. I mean, it was so good, and I also echo with your story in terms of being serendipitous in what we pursue, and oftentimes, we want to be ready, we want to embrace technology, we want to explore. So let me move to Harry. So please share with us your journey.
Well, thank you very much, Helen. It's great to be here talking with you and Antoine about AI. Every time Ronnie asks me anything, I just have to say yes. Especially he saved the ASHK not only once, but twice. When I was very young, I was born in Nanjing, China, and when I was very young, and for whatever reason, I liked robots. For a long time, I just hope I have a chance to build robots. So eventually, I came to Hong Kong to study at the Hong Kong U in 1987. I beat Antoine by 2 years and coming to Hong Kong. I remember that was really a fascinating time in Hong Kong, late 80s. Eventually, I went to Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh, did my PhD in robotics. So that was the first PhD program in the world studying robotics. So I got to spend 5 years at CMU, learned computer vision. I was really a robot perception. My advice is Raj Reddy. You know very well, the Turing Award winner for speech recognition. By the way, Raj is coming to Hong Kong. He was going to give a distinguished lecture at the ASHK in July. I cannot wait to see him. So when I became Raj's student, I walked into his office. I said, I guess I have to do speech now because now I'm your student. He said, what did you mean? I said, I read somewhere that 91% of a human perception is actually visual. Well, then he said, well, then you can do vision. So just like that, I was Raj's student, but the first computer vision student of Raj's, maybe the only vision student of Raj's, because other students are doing speech. So after CMU, I joined Microsoft for 24 years. First, as I was a researcher working on computer vision, later on I moonlighted the computer graphics. I did quite a bit of graphics work. After roughly 10 years, my CEO said to me, Steve Ballmer, he said, you're having too much fun doing research. The company is in deep trouble. There's this little company in the valley, really giving us a hard time called Google. So we have to fight back. So why don't you just come here, lead the search engineering team? So just like that, I became a vice president of engineering, even though I knew nothing about engineering. So that was pretty much it. I got all my gray hair from competing with Google. But I'm just so proud that Bing really give Google run for their money. Of course, with the AI thing, we can talk later. I think research is also ready to be disrupted. Eventually, I was promoted to executive vice president of Microsoft, leading all the advanced technology in the company. In 2016, I proposed to the company that AI was just too exciting. The company needs to be ready. So we formed a new division called the Microsoft AI that I led until I retired 4 years later. So that was pretty much my journey at Microsoft. 24 years, did everything in the technical track. Of course, during that time, I got to know Ronnie. That was probably a big plus. So, and as the rest of you all know, and I came back to Hong Kong. My wife and I both graduated from Hong Kong U, so we're very happy to be back to Hong Kong.
Thank you, Harry. And I want to add, I played with Xiao Ice. It's very hard. Xiao Ice is this pioneering chatbot. It's very engaging. And I started playing with it. I installed it on my phone. And then it'll just say hello to me every day. It's very hard to peel off from Xiaoai's. Anyway, it's a precursor, right, to this world of chatbots now. OK, so thank you very much for this brief introduction. And now we're ready to visit the first facet of our topic here, the good of AI. OK, so we've seen AI bringing about lots of benefits, from health to finance to many aspects of our daily lives. And so it's really amazing that how much good it can do to our society. So now that we know where our panelists are coming from, maybe I can invite them to share some, perhaps, favorite success stories, talking about the good of AI. So may we start with Harry this time?
Well, before I get started, I must say it's just so fascinating for me to see how excited people are nowadays about AI. Helen, you and I graduated as AI PhDs. At our time, it was really hard to find good jobs as AI PhDs. Nowadays, everyone is talking about AI, especially every company executive is talking about AI, the importance for the company, because the opposite of artificial intelligence is natural stupidity. So you just have to talk about AI, Ronnie. So that's so important. So as I think about it, my learning, of course, is very Microsoft, corporate side. I see immediately two great things, with AI, for our society. The first thing is really productivity. I think with all those AI tools, most notably right now is Microsoft Copilot. It's just tools. It's getting you do things better. So we don't really have autopilot yet. So AI is not really that great yet. Copilot tools to help us. That's the first thing I want to say. The second thing I want to say is also, with AI tools, it can help us with creativity. It's not only just productivity, but also creativity. I'm sure you follow the latest AI breakthroughs like text-to-image tools like DALL-E 2, and the most recently Sora in a text-to-video. I think everyone has a chance to become Picasso, being a good artist, a painter, or a director for movies, short movies, and things like that. So I just mentioned those two first.
Thank you, Harry. And Antoine?
So for sure, AI has this extraordinary opportunity to put us to a different level in terms of productivity, abundance, the cost of goods, cost of services, and we're seeing this starting to happen. But I want to talk about things that are just very obviously good. And very obviously good is, first of all, medicine. Drug discovery is a major area of impact, positive impact by AI. I'll give you an example. About 3.5 years ago, we invested in a company called InstaDeep out in London. Actually, it's a very interesting firm. Was founded and headed by a Tunisian-born gentleman who was educated in France and then went to the UK and went there as a banker, sort of a typical investment banker story, but a very strong mathematician. And then, at some point in time, he got bored and he said, okay, I'm going to do something useful. And he started an AI company. And lo and behold, he applied it to using what was now a form of what was then a form of generative AI. It was not called generative AI, but if you think of DNA sequencing, it's DNA is a language, just like language is language. And so if you can build statistical connections between proteins on a DNA sequence, then you can begin to predict the impact of that sequence on the real world. And so he started to work on this and at the RNA level. And when COVID hit, that actually suddenly became very relevant. And so what he was able to do, he worked very closely with BioNTech, the maker of the Pfizer vaccine, which we had here in Hong Kong, if you remember. What BioNTech was able to do, not only were they able to fast track the development of their vaccine through what these folks were doing in London, but also, as variants started to become a topic, this company was able to sample the gene pool of the virus in different countries or cities, and based on that gene pool, was able to predict which variants, actually what type of a variant would occur, whether it would be toxic and how toxic, and therefore would be able to influence the development of variants of the vaccine itself so that the vaccine becomes more effective. If you remember, the midway through COVID, the WHO started to publish a list of variants and their makeup and the toxicity. These guys had the information 2 months before the WHO. And because of this, they were able to inform the roadmap of BioNTech, so that BioNTech would come up with ever better vaccines over time. So that's a great example of what AI can do. And in this case, it is actually a form of Gen AI, but it is not applied to language, it's applied to DNA.
Thank you, Antoine. That's a fascinating story. I did read in the news recently how generative AI is accelerating, catalyzing drug discovery from decades to weeks.
That's for sure. And interestingly, I mean, for us investors was great, but this company was bought eventually by BioNTech because their value add was so great to the company that BioNTech had to internalize the competency.
Wonderful stories. Okay, so now let's move on to the second aspect, the bad of AI. Okay, so let's think about the challenges and the potential downsides of AI and explore perhaps some pressing ethical issues, societal concerns, risks, and perhaps negative impacts that may not have been intended. What would be your favorite stories? Harry?
Oh, I can start again. So, well, I think AI is, of course, wonderful, but AI can be very dangerous. I think, Antoine and I probably can get into a lot of what he earlier hinted to. This whole thing is accidental, is whole statistical. For many of us, working on AI for so long, for decades, the last decades of AI, of course, is all this so-called Gen AI, deep learning-based, mostly data-driven, I would say mostly statistical. I think most powerful AI models nowadays are very susceptible to the bias, to the uncertainty that we unfortunately cannot explain, do not understand very, very well. In physics, we always search for the unified theory. We hope to have some kind of theory that can unify the gigantic universe like cosmos to a very tiny thing called quantum. But in AI today, unfortunately, we don't really have any theory that explain why we need zillions, billions of parameters for those neural nets. The consequence of that gets to the ugly part of that. The bad part of that is really those AIs make decisions that we don't understand, and they're often wrong. So I think that's probably leads to many problems. That's the technology part of the bad. And the societal impact, if we are not careful about applying this kind of AI models, can be deadly, whether it's for medical analysis or for military. One immediate thing I think we have to worry about is the US general elections coming up and all the fake news. Gen AI makes it so much easier to generate and spread the fake information. One last thing I mentioned about along this line of fake information is that I really worry about the quality of the huge amount of content that we generate with Gen AI tools. Until recently, the internet information there, whether you like or not, I think has some kind of originality there. You can trace where you actually get that piece of information. But now with all the Gen AI tools, we will be flooded with this new internet where we cannot even understand and know why we have this kind of information. So there are so many problems that we just have to deal with.
For sure, I share the same sentiment. In fact, I have a collaborator at CMU, in fact, and we're just starting a project looking at how to insert some kind of a watermark in a large language model, so that the content that is generated from that large language model will bear that watermark, and you can hopefully detect it.
I think that we will have more technical solutions to address them. But the task is daunting, and the amount of information we're generating. And one could think about it, for instance, not only we actually put the watermarks there, one could think about tools like blockchain kind of things to make sure that the original source was from. But then you have to deal with other technical challenges.
Yes, indeed. I mean, the other thing is, I just want to say, tell you a story about unintended consequence. In 2015, one of my students was interested in voice conversion. So the idea was that, in fact, we were doing some kind of, stroke patients that where the disease have affected their speech, and so they have dysarthric speech, or what we call disordered speech. And so we devised a model that can reconstruct the speech so that it would sound more normal, so that the patient can be more easily understood by family and friends and caretakers. However, in the process of transforming or converting the speech, we also converted the voice quality so that the speaker identity characteristics are also distorted. So we had to put back, the speaker characteristics by this new method, which we call voice conversion. And so, in fact, when we first did research in voice conversion, it was really to try to insert the source speaker's characteristics back into the transformed speech signal. And that was our intended application. However, you can easily think about the other side. It's a double-edged sword. So you can actually easily misuse it to impersonate other people. And that's what all the deep fakes, and not only in voice, but also in the face, in the expressions, etc. It's all. So I should say, don't believe what you see on the internet. Anyway, so that's a little story from me. If I may now move to Antoine.
Well, before I talk about the bad, there are many other good things that AI could do, and maybe we can talk about it when we talk about the beautiful, like in education or other things. But so in terms of the bad, I relate 100% with the deepfake issue that is arising. I mean, you've seen just yesterday again, there was an issue with OKX, the crypto exchange, that got hacked. One of its users got effectively the system was hacked, but one of the users lost a couple $1 million, I believe. It's in a world where a lot of the exchange is born out of the digital medium, where AI is able to impersonate you. You don't know anymore who is whom. And so you don't know whether you're talking to your banker or not, or even to your wife. You don't know. And that's going to happen. It's around the corner. It's happening today, sort of a mainstream things like the election in the U.S. But when it's very well done, it's beginning to create real harm. Things like Face ID is I think no longer acceptable. I think it's still if you use Face ID today for your bank account, even your phone in due course, I think it's there's a risk. Same thing with Voice ID in the U.S. There's a lot of banks will ask you to use your voice as a password. My voice is my password. That is going to be obsolete very soon because it's going to be hacked essentially, and that's very risky. Even some people are saying now that if stop doing this or this when people take pictures of you, because high-resolution cameras will eventually be able to identify your fingerprint, right? And therefore will be able to hack that as well. I mean, I thought, okay, maybe my face will be hacked, but maybe not my fingerprint. It's harder, but maybe it's not that hard. So let's think about this a little bit. It's a big problem. So deepfake, in terms of content generation, but in terms of security, it's going to be a big problem. We think of cybersecurity as being protecting files, protecting our devices. Cybersecurity is going to be about protecting ourselves, our very self, our likeness, our identity. So that's one thing. I think the other thing, which I mentioned earlier, it's the unknown unknowns. And so in a world of unknown unknowns, folks are bound to overreact. And overreact because of fear, because of greed. I'm a European. I left Europe 5 years ago for a good reason. And one good reason is things like the AI Act. The AI Act is nonsensical. And because it's essentially prevents innovation at the expense of ill-informed and ill-devised policy, right? I want to say this is very important because people think about regulation, and I think regulation is very important, but we don't regulate HI. We do not regulate human intelligence, right? Holistically. We regulate it in its application, right? Lawyers, drivers are not regulated equally, right? To be a lawyer, you have to pass the bar exam, and you can be disbarred. To be a driver, you have to pass a driving license, and this can be also removed, right, from you. And so we regulate HI in its application. We should regulate AI in its application first and foremost, and it should be regulated by people who practice those domains, those functions, those jobs, those professions. And so, for example, right, the autonomous car will eventually have its driving license, and this driving license will be a lot more comprehensive than that of a human, right? It will be, and each time there's a software refresh, well, it will pass it again, and again, and again. And that's how we're going to develop trust in those machines. My point is, because of fear and because of the fear of the unknown, a lot of bad decisions are being made, and by humans. And so we need just to take a step back and give it back to the scientists to devise. Of course, the policymaker is important too, but give it back to the scientists because the scientists are the best place to know what the systems can do, what they cannot do, and where they're dangerous and when they're not.
Thank you. So when you were saying that sometimes you speak on the phone with a lady and you don't know if that's really your wife, so the little
risky, yeah.
precaution is to have a secret password.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So I mean, little things that can mitigate.
Multi-factor authentication.
Yeah, multi-factor authentication, exactly. Yeah. Okay, so now we'll move on to the third aspect, the beautiful. So let's think about what the beautiful means to you in AI. And what would be this beautiful new world look like? So let's extrapolate a little bit. I guess, Antoine?
Yeah, so there are many things. And first of all, it's really hard to imagine because, first of all, a lot of what's happening today, most of us never expected it to happen in a lifetime. when we built Siri, we didn't expect that we would actually be seeing full, free, full conversational interfaces in our lifetime. It was maybe 2040, 2050, but not 2022, right? We didn't believe it was possible. So it's hard to extrapolate, but let me give you a few, maybe a few pointers. AI will be able to create worlds we cannot imagine. It's already beginning to happen, but the ways that we are going to live these worlds and we're going to live through these experiences is going to be very different. Movies will never be the same. Today, movies are static. There's one storyline. Movies will become like video games. You'll enter the theater, or it will be at home, and you will interact with the narrative. Depending on your reactions to it, the narrative will change. Maybe you'll ask the movie to change narrative. Oh, I don't want her to die. Okay, and then we'll change. Well, the system will change. I was in. So that's an example. I was in Bangalore just late last week, and I went to see a museum. And if you're in Bangalore, just go and see it. It's called the MAP, M-A-P. It's a private museum. It's a great museum. There's a painting in there. Actually, there are several paintings, but there's a painting in there. You actually can literally go into the painting because AI has taken this painting and is projecting it on a screen and makes you go through it and live, animates it and makes you live the sequences of things that are happening to that painting, the different scenes in it. I will never forget this painting. I will never forget this painting. How many paintings have I seen in my life? That one I will never forget because I went in it. So those are phenomenal examples of what AI can do. And it's just the beginning, so I cannot imagine what it's going to look like in 10 years.
I can think of many things, in the future, the new beautiful world, empowered by AI. I probably say two things. One is more wearing my head as a researcher and a computer scientist. I think the most exciting thing right now, especially for those of us working in universities, I think is really this new thing called AI for science. Mm-hmm. I think Antoine touched upon that, in drug discovery. I think it's just such an important thing for us to really spend our resources to support this kind of research activities. AI for material science, AI for biology, AI for physics. Some mathematicians don't believe AI can do better than them, but I'm not so sure about that. I think that's just so fascinating. Probably the most exciting thing to me is with more and more powerful AI, can we really finally solve the world's energy problem? Will we be able to figure out that nuclear fusion and other technologies eventually will provide us the endless supply of energy? Many other interesting areas like medicine, other things that Anton talked about. I think that's one of the things I really pushing hard at HKUST, for different departments to collaborate using AI to do those things. The other thing I want to mention about is that it might sound a little scary to many of you. My lifetime passion about the robots. I predict that there will be many, many more robots coming up. There will be more robots than human in this universe, probably soon. It sounds scary, but it's going to happen. Hopefully, they will be very nice to us. So I stop here. Yeah.
But maybe I can just add something. So the scariness of a robot is because we do not trust it yet. But as I like to say that we give people everyday weapons, and they are called cars, right? And yet we are trusting each other that by and large, we will behave on the road and we will not crash into each other. But cars are big weapons. You can kill people with this, right? But we've build that trust in society between people, and we're very good at that. Humans are actually very trusting of each other. The issue with machines, and that we humans see them as automatons. We don't see them as decision-making machines. We see them as things that actually automate things, and that's it. But as we give machines more and more complex decisions to make, such as driving, such as helping us in a nursing home, such as cooking, my old dream. As we give these machines more power to make decisions, at the same time, we have to give them more trust. If we don't give them more trust, then of course we're going to be disappointed and we're going to be scared. And that trust-building effort is going to be very important, and the only way to achieve it is by living with it and practicing it. And so that's if there's a message here, is get your hands dirty, practice it, live with it, because it's the only way you build trust.
Helen, if I may just add on to what I really like what Antoine said. I also add another aspect as we think about robots. In Western culture, when we talk about robots, we think about those movie scenes where we have robot overlords, and they try to control the universe and they kill humans. They may kill humans. But that's not necessarily the only view about the robots. If you think about another culture like the Japanese, in the Japanese culture, when they talk about robots, they're very lovely, they're very nice, and it's almost like, kids have a toy and they're talking to each other. So there are different ways to think about robots, to design and implement those robots.
Yes, thank you. And I also want to add a small point to this discussion. I think, our two panelists, what they have said inspired me to emphasize one point. I think the beauty in the future of AI, where many of us being researchers are trying to work very hard towards, is to be able to achieve explainability in our models. If we can trace how a decision is made, explainability, interpretability, transparency, if we can achieve those, so we have many mathematicians and computer scientists in the audience. So if we can work hard together, then maybe we can achieve trust. And maybe that will contribute to building this beautiful new world. Okay, so we've been talking a lot, and I received a reminder from the back that we should start our Q&A session. So we actually don't have too much time for Q&A. It's a very precious 15 minutes. So I'm going to open up and field questions from the floor. Any questions? Yes, please. The gentleman at the back. A microphone is coming your way.
Thank you. That was a terrific discussion. It was very interesting to hear your previous comment, Antoine, on AI regulation. I would agree with you that AI regulation at this stage, when we are still relatively far away from strong AI or AGI, it should be done focusing on use cases, not on the science itself, and it should be done in a risk based approach as well. But given the ultimate risk of an AI singularity, there's been an increasing academic and philosophical debate on this. Don't you think humanity should at least start to think about reining in the science or regulate the science itself? Because a lot of people think when AI gets out of control, we can just unplug them. No, you can't, right? So I want to hear your view, and I'm also interested in hearing Dr. Shum's view on this as well.
So it's a tough question. It's a tough question because, as Harry mentioned, we really don't. Today we have really no idea exactly as to what's happening in a very large multi-layered neural network. We have inklings of what's happening, but you cannot today forensic the actual pathway, and you can understand what happened. You do not understand why the weights were arrived at this way, and the topology as well. And so there are major unknowns here, which has divided the profession between the folks who believe that effectively these systems are just today purely smart interfaces. People like Yann LeCun, for example, is a good friend of mine, and people who believe that no, this is potentially a new way of learning, and this is not the way that we humans learn. It's different. It's unexpected, and therefore we should pay real attention to what these things do. And it's really a philosophical debate. There's no good answer to this today. There's a lot of research has to happen to really do better at this, but today it's the only way you can gauge what's happening is by benchmarking the system to a particular outcome. Does it pass the bar, okay, or not? Okay, it passes the bar. Well, it's supposed to be a decent lawyer if it passes the bar. So that's the origin of the problem is this, right? And so I am not in a camp of those who would advocate that regulating the science is a good idea. I'll tell you why. Because if you regulate the science, a lot of people will actually abide by it, but a number of people will not. And the folks who will not are the rogue agents. And the rogue agents will eventually take care of you, so to speak. And so it's better to have legitimate scientists and good actors, bad actors, actually innovate as much as possible, as quickly as possible, so that you find the antidotes to what eventually will arise out of rogue agents. I think the biggest fear today is not an AI-driven, an AI-owned, an AI-dominated world. It is humans who it's bad actors who use AI to dominate. And that to me is the first and foremost risk, and that's what we should care about, and that's why I'm not in favor of regulating science today.
I just add a little bit, probably more from industry point of view or from professionals, a practitioner's point of view. So when I was at Microsoft, we actually started a committee called the AI Ethics Committee, worrying about that, whether we should even ship not really mature AI technology to customers who might just misuse. So there are many problems that we just did not understand. So eventually, we thought that two things. One is we have to pay attention to those things because we actually ship AI technology in the products. Secondly, we should learn from each other. That's why several years ago, Microsoft, Google, DeepMind at that time, and Facebook, we actually formed an alliance. It's called a Partnership in AI. Some Hong Kong entities, universities, and others also participate. So people can share each other's learning as we move into this unknown world, new exciting world. At the same time, as I look across the world, I think different governments do take somewhat very different approaches there. There's a joke, and I hope Anton wouldn't feel offended. Of course, it's very American-centric. It's American innovates, European regulates. So
that's very true.
That's very true. Okay, so well, we Chinese build, so they talk, and so the important things you look at across the. In the U.S., typically what happens is that the industry will move very, very fast. 5-10 years later, the government realizes they have to do something. Then they start to have some policy regulations. Then maybe 10 years down the road later, and then you have law to put it into stone. But the different governments are just very different. Chinese, for instance, will take a somewhat different approach.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, so we have the lady at the back. Yes, please. And then we have the lady over here. Yeah.
Thank you for the great presentation. Helen, at the beginning you mentioned Hong Kong has a particular advantage being a multilingual city. So I kind of want to ask a further question. From your perspectives, what are the most particular promising opportunities for Hong Kong, to bring out the good and the beautiful of AI? Maybe from a policy perspective or from a business perspective. I'm thinking more in terms of potentially leveraging Hong Kong's position both as IFC, but also as now the linkage of GBA. So we'd be curious to hear both your views on that. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for the question. It's a wonderful question. So I mentioned that Hong Kong actually provides a wonderful environment for AI research, especially in my area, because of multilinguality. It's just everyday business for us. So therefore, when we think of a problem, a problem in speech and language processing, we always go for a multilingual dimension. Now, what are the advantages of Hong Kong? I think, first of all, we have very good universities, and we're a small place, so we are able to gather teams across universities to work together on some grand challenge problems. I think our government is working very hard towards that. If you think about the funding schemes from the Research Grants Council or the more recent Inno-Hong Kong scheme, where we have now 29 Inno-Hong Kong, what we call Inno Centers in the Science Park, right? They're all doing R&D. And now we have half of those are in health, half of those are in AI robotics. I know that in Hong Kong UST, the most recent one, they were awarded the 29th Inno Center named ASHK GAI, Hong Kong Generative AI Research Center. So that's led by HKUST. I also contribute to that center. At Chinese University, I also run the center, the Inno Center on AI. The name is Center for Perceptual and Interactive Intelligence. So we began in 2020, and we've been working on AI. So if you look at the most recent budget speech from our financial secretary, if you watch channel 32 of RTHK, and as our financial secretary was delivering the budget speech, if you see the streaming text where the key points from the speech were extracted in real time and distilled and streamed out, that's our technology. Okay, so we actually apply that technology not only for the budget speech, but also for the press conference later, and some other applications we're helping out. So anyway, I think going back to the advantages of Hong Kong, so I'm hoping that with a lot of the efforts from our government now in attracting enterprises, in attracting talent, we talk about building up, nurturing talent from ground up. We also talk about attracting flagship enterprises, because enterprises attract talent and talent attract talent. And Hong Kong is very international, right? A lot of people like to come to Hong Kong. So we must fully leverage our advantages to build up an ecosystem, not only for AI, but really in digital technologies, and achieve good transformation, go on a good pathway, a trajectory towards successful digital transformation, transform our economy so that we can continue to prosper even more. So I think that is a pathway that I hope we can achieve. Yeah, so thank you for your question. And we have another question. So the lady in the beige. Yeah.
Hi. Yeah. I wanted to ask, actually, from China point of view, the fact that ChatGPT and OpenAI is blocked in China, do you think that it will create any gap or any implication for China, or because they will use their own, it will not affect them? Thank you.
So I think, first of all, I think China has homegrown large language models. So, as to the technology itself, whether China is able to develop it or not, it's clear that it's able to develop it. There's no, as I said, ChatGPT was an accident. It happened in the US for the reasons that it happened in the US, in that you've got that statistical, that critical mass of people who are statistically doing things that are eventually collide, and eventually that creates the opportunity for this. You don't have this at that same scale anywhere else, and that's why it happened in the US. But now that it's happened there, you can see similar undertakings happening in China, in France, actually in Israel, even before ChatGPT was released. There was a company called AI21 Labs, which had a large language model as well. Now the question that you're asking is whether the fact that there is that you don't have non-homegrown models in China will hamper the competition and potentially eventually the outcome. I don't know. Proof's in the pudding. China is a big place. It's got a lot of researchers. So if there is competition within, that might be enough. But I guess we will see. I think the jury is out and will be out for a while.
I just add some facts here. And there are many large language models right now available in China market, provided by both the big companies like ByteDance, Baidu, Alibaba, Tencent. They all have their large language models. Now you can use for free. And then there are also a number of startups competing very, very hard. Probably that's where the best talents are working on right now in China. And this is a recent Wall Street Journal article talked about the 4 of those startups. And their models are also excellent. I think if you look at the quality due objective evaluation, one could argue that the quality from those Chinese models may not be as good as the latest GPT-4 from OpenAI. But then again, other American companies are also behind slightly behind the OpenAI's model. I think the competition is definitely going on. There are a lot of talents. I think I'm pretty confident that there will be a good competition there.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Also, I must say, if we think of multilingual large language models, then that the competition is really on. And we are talking about the battle of thousands of large language models now. You know, every few weeks you see a new one emerge. Yeah. Okay, so I think we have a last chance for a question from the floor. Okay, we have a gentleman, in the middle. Thank you. Yes.
Okay, yeah, I want to ask a little bit about the money. So, like, let's say money is for for a bank background, you got a math background, and money is for like buying stuff from other people, you got a need. So let's say AI is so good, it might not be an AGI, but it's sufficient enough for satisfying most of our needs. So what will be money then? Like, what will be the money in the AI economy? So yeah, that's my question.
So is your question is the question whether we will run out of jobs for humans and how we'll earn our living?
Yeah, jobs or like money, like capitalists, like what will it be? Yeah. Is it clear?
So it's a good question. So humans, generally earn money because they need to live, and have food and a roof, and then eventually they do this to achieve greater goals, right? The reason why I'm saying this is because when you you put together a model, you have to define an objective function. And the objective function can be many things. So it can be also multi-objectives. You can have many different objectives to one objective function. But one of them could be to make money. In fact, in my past life, I did design some algorithmic models that were designed to actually trade, right, to earn yourself a living. So AI could be very good at making money for you as a coder. Could be very good at making money for you as a business owner. Okay, for sure. I don't think it means that people will run out of things to do to make money for themselves. I think there's the issue of job displacement and all things. I think it will happen. I think Clearly, people will need to change jobs or change careers many times in a lifetime. But this will be less about money and more about satisfaction and being able to live a fruitful life. Because eventually, I believe, it's my belief, my hope, is that AI will be a factor of so much productivity increase and reduction in cost that eventually we'll live very, very well. So that's what I believe. Okay, and so, but Harry, do you have a different opinion?
Probably I provide a different framework for us to think about, there's so much money we can make, from AI. And so if you think about the history of human society, until 5,000 years ago, there was really nothing happened until agricultural revolution. Then you have this thing called the factory of just making food. It's called farms. So that's how people made money, because you have now a quote-unquote factory of food. Then came the Industrial Revolution. Then you have the factory in the common sense. We understand that factory of steel, iron, and goods. That's how people made money. Then came this information society. Then you have factory of information. Somehow people made a lot more money by making more information available. I think we're just entering this new world of factory of intelligence. How much money are we going to make? I don't know. I feel it's huge. I feel it's orders of magnitude than what we could make in the information society.
Thank you. So I just received special permission from Ronnie in case there are further questions from the floor. Please grasp the opportunity. Yes, this gentleman over here. Yes, please.
Thank you very much. I have a question from the investment side. It's also about money. With the development of the AI, who will be the beneficiaries in different stage? For example, like currently people invest a lot into the hardware, or maybe in the future software or application in the traditional industries. What do you see for Anton, and where are we now? Maybe Harry and Dr. Shum and Dr. Meng can give some opinion as well. Thank you.
So I get these questions a lot because as an investor now, people always ask me, how do I make money for them? First of all, I think at the application layer, let's just talk about two things there. There's generative AI and conventional AI. And then within generative AI, I'll say today there's the application layer, and then there's everything from a stack standpoint that's below it, which includes things like tools, foundational models, obviously things like LLM, also the cloud, and a cloud orchestration layer, and hardware. Okay, we have 4 different layers underneath. I invest a lot in these 4 different layers in the stack, which means all the infrastructure that leads you to deploy and operate successfully AI-based applications. At the application layer, at the top of the stack, the application layer is where I'm the most conservative. Let me tell you why. I'm old enough to have lived through Web 1.0. And I remember back then when people were building companies just because they could put a service on the web. You could put a web page together and you put it on the web, and lo and behold, you hope to make money. Most companies didn't make money. And the same thing's going to happen with AI, right? So a lot of people are going to say, well, I can solve this problem with AI, or I can make it better with AI. Therefore, there's a business. Well, in most cases, there's no business. Let me give you an example. If you want to do That's what I call the features and widgets as opposed to the businesses. If you want to build a better way to build a spreadsheet on Excel, today you can do it with AI, and you can do it better still than Microsoft can do it today, right? You can build a fast-track way to develop a great spreadsheet and maybe do some nice workflow enablement around it. Who's going to pay for this? I won't pay for this because I can't really quantify gain of time. Most importantly, I know that in a year, Microsoft's going to come up with it anyway, right? So I should not invest in the company. So at the application layer, you have to really look carefully and invest in real businesses. At the infrastructure layer, you know what people say, you know, in a gold rush, the folks who make money are the picks and shovels people. And the infrastructure layer is really where you have the picks and shovels. And that's where I spend a lot of my time. And whether it's the hardware level, of course, I hope that you folks bought NVIDIA 2 years ago or 5 years ago.
Or even a year ago.
But even a year ago. Infrastructure and starting with hardware, but I think very importantly, the cloud and everything that's around the cloud. Because, and this is the last thing I'm going to say, what's happening now is it's a beginning of a secular trend where we will see biological, so brain-based compute cycles moved from the brain to the cloud. The cloud economics are greater than compute at the edge, so most of the compute for complex AI decision-making is going to happen in the cloud. And so what's happening today is that transition, secular transfer from brain compute cycles to machine compute cycles in the cloud. And so in our brains, there's a lot of compute. And today, maybe 1 or 2% is moving to the cloud. But in 5 years, it's going to be 10%. And in 20 years, it's going to be 50%, or whatever's the number. The point is, the cloud compute is going to skyrocket over the next 10, 20, 30, 50 years. This is not about 10x. It's about 1,000x, 1,000,000x. Because again, in our brains, a lot of compute. And when governments come to me and say, how do we AI enable our country? I say, first thing first, build cloud infrastructure. You will never be underinvested in the cloud.
Well, I actually completely agree with what Antoine said. I just give you one concrete example where you can make money. Now I get your attention. So, especially now I'm with Ronnie. But seriously, I think there's this time window where you can invest in basically making new computing centers. It's so-called the new commercial real estate business. So I was in the US and just a couple of weeks ago attending a conference where there's a very interesting panel. It's actually hosted by Microsoft CFO Amy. The two gentlemen, panelists, they couldn't be more different. Of course, they are super rich. That's the commonality. One is actually Jensen Huang. The other one is actually Steve Schwarzman. So the title of that panel is called Capital Intensive Investment. So if you make chips, of course, you need a huge amount of money. And if you build large language models like Microsoft or OpenAI, you need a huge amount of money. But why Steve was there? It turns out that he bought this commercial real estate company, like several $1 billion a few years ago. I think without realizing that it's now gold. So because everyone is going to build more and more computing centers, then you don't have enough places to build this kind of stuff, and you don't have enough electricity to supply that. There is a prediction that in 5 to 10 years, the electricity demands, because of those computing centers, will increase by 30% worldwide. It's an astonishing number. I smell money there.
Thank you, Harry. So maybe I'll contribute my little thought. I want to think of it a little bit differently. So in terms of saving money, again, I think I echo the point Harry mentioned. I think doing research in green computing, green computing approaches so that our generative AI or our AI models won't consume so much energy. That will save money. And that will mean a lot of money in there when you're saving money, right? Another research that I've been doing, and that was, I started doing it in, I started thinking about it in 2018. and that was on detecting dementia. And the reason was because I read in an article from the WHO that around the world, every 3 seconds, we have a new case of dementia. And of course, you can read that maybe there are new cures that are emerging in the horizon, but really there's no well-established cure right now. And age is the biggest risk factor for dementia incidences. And you think about around the world, right? And especially in Hong Kong, right? Hong Kong, somehow, people age well. We have even beat Japan in terms of longevity. Actually, Hong Kong is a wonderful place. My colleagues in gerontology can tell you why people in Hong Kong can age well, even though our city is so crowded. And that's another story. But what I want to say is detecting dementia is actually rather expensive and intrusive because you need a face-to-face meeting with a neuropsychologist, or you need a brain scan, or you need blood tests. On the other hand, the disease burden of dementia is just mind-boggling because it was at 1 trillion US, or it is at 1 trillion US, maybe a bit more now, and it's going to double or triple in a few years' time. And that's from one disease, okay? The disease burden from one disease. So what are we to do to stop this tsunami? Because we have a rapidly aging global population, and we're really threatened by diseases such as dementia. So it's very important to have a very inexpensive means of screening so that we want to be able to achieve early detection and do early intervention so that we keep everybody, we keep the cognitive decline, or we hope to, even if we cannot reverse the cognitive decline, we want to sustain the cognitive functioning of people so that we can all have, we have good quality of living, right? So I've been working on using simply speech and language, so having a dialogue with someone, and from the speech, actually detect the cognitive functioning and monitor the cognitive functioning. And I believe with the use of AI, because those are the AI technologies that I've been researching, if you think about it, it's all automatic, and the marginal cost is basically almost zero. So you're saving a lot of money. And we hope that we will be able to do a scalable screening and achieve early detection and intervention and keep the disease burden low. So that's about saving money. But thank you for your question. Okay, so. Okay, thank you, Ronnie. Yes.
So if AI becomes more accessible, cheaper, and also more effective to be used, would unemployment be a problem? And as you've mentioned earlier, there's been a lot of jobs displaced. If these jobs are displaced, is there any way to minimize this job loss or even solve it?
That's a great question.
I can take that.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Harry.
It's really excellent question that many people already started to worry about that. Just like any technology revolution, almost guaranteed that when you have a new technology revolution, many existing jobs will be displaced. And the hope is that the new jobs will pop up somewhat. The big challenge is that, of course, with this kind of productivity gain and the loss of job, very likely that the society will be significantly impacted. Most noticeable was actually right after Industrial Revolution. 40 years after that, it was probably the most cruel period of human history with 2 world wars. If we think about what's happening with AI, I think it's really most important thing is, as I mentioned earlier, is there's a huge gain in productivity. So people are already thinking about that, should we have universal basic income to make sure that at least every human being can live some kind of decent life. No one really knows, and it's still too early to really implement too many of those things, I think it's something that is the whole society will have to face altogether. It also means that what kind of even jobs, what kind of areas should we study? And as you go to college, should you study computer science or should you actually study something else? It's going to be a fascinating, challenging question for this young lady.
Thank you, Harry. Yeah, Antoine?
No, I'll just add that I think the key skill going forward is going to be learning how to learn, right? It's not going to be knowledge. It's not going to be what you know, but it's going to be what you can know tomorrow, what you can do tomorrow. And the companies will start to change the way that they think about whom to hire. They will hire less of functional experts, and they will hire the lifelong learners, the people who can evolve and change, right? But that presents a huge challenge to societies, especially the old ones, where the premise was you're born and by age 20 to 25, 28 you're done with your learning and then boom, you're off to the races. That's no longer the case. You will start to learn day zero, you will end learning at the very end, right? And that's really a challenge because we're not geared for that, societies today. So that's what we have to work on.
Thank you. Wonderful question and wonderful answers. Okay. So I think it's probably time to conclude with some final thoughts. So I would like to invite our panelists, maybe if you have any words of wisdom, any concluding thoughts, or perhaps leave our audience with some thought-provoking ideas as we move forward.
So my parting thought here is just very simple, right? AI is not this giant black box that everybody's talking about. I mean, a lot of you are studying it at school or practicing it at work, or even just practicing it on your computer or your smartphone. Think about the human brain. Think how black boxy it is. It is more of a black box than AI is, right? And so, but we've been able to work with it. We've been able to train it. We've been able to make a lot of great use of it over the decades, centuries, millennia of human civilization. AI is just the next step in this, right? This is not this giant black box. It is something you can work with, you can train, you can partner with to build something better, make money, make successful businesses, get a better education. Personalized education is going to be the great thing. You remember this great teacher you had, growing up. I remember a couple of great teachers that I had that made my day and made my childhood. Well, AI can be that. AI can be your great teacher, just not only when you're studying, but also when you're working later in your life. So I think, to me, the future is bright, not dark. It's bright, and we just need to embrace it.
Thank you, Antoine. And Harry?
Yeah, I feel it's very similar. I think that whatever people say, AGI is around the corner. I don't buy that. I think we're still very early in this whole AI revolution. You got to realize that the term artificial intelligence was coined in 1956 by John McCarthy, who was my advisor's advisor. So so many years later, we get to this stage that AI is very exciting again. I think it's the time for us to actually get into AI, embrace AI, as Antoine said, really understand, what we can really build. It's just a tool for human beings, in my opinion.
So thank you. So my concluding remark, the future of AI is in our hands. We must shape it with wisdom, with empathy, and with a steadfast commitment for the common good. So with that, please join me to thank our two wonderful panelists today.
I think we should also thank our moderator. She did a fantastic job. She added to it and brought out the best from the other two. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Helen Meng. My name is Cruise, Tom Cruise. Trust me, I'm not a robot. Scary. Harry, I told everybody why Antoine is so smart, because he lived 20-some years in Hong Kong. Do you know why Harry is so smart? Because he went to Hong Kong U, but the most important thing he gained from Hong Kong U is a Hong Kong local Cantonese girl called Chen Ga-yan. And I have seen the two of them interact. I can tell you that Ga-yan is really a lovely lady, and you know, I think she likes you, Harry. But what I don't know is whether you can duplicate that with AI in terms of emotion and empathy, as Helen mentioned. There's a lot of questions that were raised. You guys have given me a lot more questions than answer. I'm sorry. And so for those of you who are joining the Asia Society dinner, we will continue that dialogue upstairs over dinner. As I said, my original title was Good, Bad, and Not Beautiful, but Ugly. I don't know. I thought that somebody's going to mention, when you asked Helen about beautiful, I thought you're going to mention art. But I really don't know if art generated by AI is beautiful or not, because it lacks the human element in it. And so I'm getting to be a confused person. I suppose maybe that's why I should retire. I'm getting confused. But anyway, I think there is a fantastic discussion. This is the best free program you can have in the whole of Hong Kong. And for those of us who want to learn more, we will move upstairs. You mentioned about saving money, energy. I want to know more about that. The real estate part, right, is of less interest to me. I mean, the energy part, I think that, because energy the shortage of which can be serious, or if it can, as Harry mentioned, unlimited energy, that will truly change the world. I also want to know about data and the relationship between data and AI. I was with Professor Zhu Min from Tsinghua University in Germany a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about what I call the economics of data, and accounting of data. How do you count it in your balance sheet and your profit and loss statement? And so a lot of these things are all AI related, and I really, really want to learn more. So I want to thank every one of you, especially the students. Can I have all the students that are in high school or younger or university, can you rise? Show us who you are. The students, please. Come on, the students. Ladies and gentlemen, our future. And I think that our gold medalist, the gold medalist from Harrow International School is here. You're from Hong Kong, or you're from Malaysia, or where are you from? You're from Malaysia, right? So Chinese from Malaysia. Delighted to have you, gold winner of the 2024 Hang Lung Math Award. Okay, come back for our next edition. I don't know what it is, but ask Susan Wong, she will tell us. But for those of you who are not Asia Society members, I encourage you to sign up. It's not because the president tells me to do so, because when the president is short of money, she will come to me. So I want to make sure that everyone who are not a member, please join as a member. Thank you for joining us today.